Hello everyone, my name is Jake. Welcome back to the Federal Focus Weekly Overview. And we have quite a bit to talk about this week. A few things have happened. Some crazy stuff also happened today. The things I'm gonna be talking about: the Iran situation, the Artemis splashdown, something which I can't mention but I will mention later. The Hungarian election which happened, and the Yankees being an ass team which I should never even been a fan of. Although the Mets are worse, so what can we do? First, let's talk with Iran, and I don't know where to start here. I'm just gonna start first, with the post that Trump made April 5th. Okay, these are them. Hopefully, I don't get like striked. You can hear them. These are them. All right. So this was a big deal because obviously you shouldn't be threatening a whole civilization should be dying today. Okay, and he threatened that on Tuesday it would be power plant day and many other things. When I first saw this, I thought that it would be a deal or something. I mean, I was wondering what it could have been, but there was negotiations which were happening, and they managed to do a ceasefire. Now you would have thought this would be the end of it. Obviously not. Who would have thought it would be? Um, so when the ceasefire happened, let me just give the overview. Ceasefire was basically just a ceasefire. Everyone knows what ceasefire is, but there's a lot of complications with if it would be only with Iran and the U.S. or with Israel and Iran and Israel and Lebanon and a lot of other things. And that was really a big problem with it. The ceasefire was the Israel-Lebanon situation because that's been a separate war which has been happening, but Hezbollah or whatever the hell it's called, is really the main point of contention. It's kind of like the proxy of Iran. So that was a very big problem because they didn't really stop the war with that. Which I mean, obviously, you want to get rid of Hezbollah, but they didn't stop the war with that. So they created a lot of tension. Ceasefire was basically broken immediately. Now I don't know if it was. I don't. It was not broken intentionally. I don't think. It was kind of broken by both sides because the ceasefire um really would take a while to implement because of the hierarchy of the structure of the Iranian like secret military, whatever it's called, IRGC. It's very difficult to get all those commands down, I think, or I don't know how the hell they do it, but it was gonna take a while, and they were gonna do negotiations, which I believe were yesterday, and they resulted in absolutely nothing. Literally nothing happened. They couldn't agree to a deal. So what Trump did was he did a naval blockade on the Strait of Hormuz, basically doing an Uno reverse card of what Iran was doing in the first situation. I don't know why. It's kind of funny, but it's not funny for your wallets. Okay, so yeah. So the war hasn't officially begun, but it's probably going to begin again. The blockade was going to start, I believe, tomorrow or the next day at 8 a.m. And that's the current Iranian situation. Temporary ceasefire most likely won't last. And onto some news which isn't about war. We got the Artemis 2 mission ending. I talked about this a while. This was a great image which happened. Um, so I'm just gonna give the overview of the end of the mission. Now they I think I talked about this. They were going around the moon, which they ended up doing. They were farthest away from humanity ever. Um, there was a communications blackout for like 40 minutes because they can't talk to it when there's a giant moon blocking it. Um, and so they started coming back, and their speed was increasing ever so slightly. They were going from a measly 1,000 miles per hour to, I believe, in the day of it, oh, there's CC back here, to around 5,000 miles per hour, and it just kept on increasing, and it just increased to eventually when they were going back into the atmosphere, which um just follow my mouse here. This is how it works. So pretend this thing is the moon. They go around it like this, and then pretend that this is Earth. They go like this to the Earth's atmosphere. They're going into it, and then they have to go down, and then they have to go up a little bit. Because if you just go straight down, I believe it just wouldn't go well for the thing. so they have to kind of slow their speed down because you don't want to go 25,000 miles per hour, which they didn't break the record. That is the record, 25,000. They got around 24,700, I believe. So they have to do this. They have to slow their speed, so they went over like this, and then they splash down into the ocean with their parachute, as you can see here. And they, I believe, are in quarantine now. This was amazing to look at. This is really the most dangerous part of the mission because the temperatures were at about 4,000 degrees Celsius, I believe, which is half of the sun's temperature. So as you can imagine, it's very dangerous. They had a heat shield, which is absolutely gigantic. Heat shield. Why am I talking in all caps? Artemis. 16 feet wide. Um, this is basically what it looked like. The reason there was a communications blackout, which was very scary for around 6 minutes because plasma was around the Orion spacecraft because of how fast they were going, and they had to have the heat shield, which is that giant, to protect them. This is, I believe, a giant win for humanity, but mostly the U.S., which is kind of the most important part of humanity. Chris Sale's really selling me in fantasy, I have to say. Besides that, you can see they're going 24,661 miles per hour, very close to the, I think, Apollo 13 record. Yeah, and they ended up splashing down. It was very fun to watch, very nervous, but very fun to watch. I'm just going to show this at the end just to show the overview, and then we'll move on. I think my mouse cursor did a better job than this, but, whatever. My cursor was cooking. And just look at the speed down here. This is per second. They're going at the end, they're going 10 kilometers per second, which is like way faster than an airplane. So that was amazing. Let's move on. Why is it misinformation? Oh, brother. Eric Swalwell. Now, he's a person who's running for California. He's a Democratic member of the House. I don't really want to go into this so much because it's just kind of weird. Well, it's illegal. But he had some allegations. Not really allegations. He like sexually assaulted 50 different people. I may have to mute that because I don't want to get demonetized or whatever. Well, I'm not monetized in the first place, but you know what I mean. So he hasn't dropped out of the California governor race, but he's lost literally all of his endorsements. He was basically the leading person for it. Look at this. Wait if I can find it. Look at this. All of his endorsements were rescinded. He has none left, except for whoever the hell this guy is. He literally has no endorsements left. I mean, this is just ridiculous. Now, I think he's getting expelled. They'll expel him and a Republican member who did something. I forgot what. But yeah, this guy is a horrible person, obviously, and he should be expelled. And on to the Hungarian election, where, Viktor Orban, who sounds like Gru from Despicable Me, you have to look up to know what I'm talking about. He's the prime minister, I think, or prime minister of Hungary, and he's basically been their leader for the last 25 years. He's a right winger, and he ended up losing, which was not really that unexpected. Although, if you go to the last election, he significantly. Oh, come on. No. So I've Sale in fantasy, and he's really selling right now. So he's basically an authoritarian. So I thought it was potentially going to be rigged. It was not. He got absolutely crushed in the election. The other party now has a supermajority, which means they can basically amend the Constitution, do whatever the hell they want. And the thing is, they were kind of running to the right of him on immigration. But they were mostly to the left of him. They're like center right to right wing. He was basically far right. Turnout was insane. It jumped up by like 10%. It was like 80%, and he got crushed. And it was very interesting. And on to the Yankees. I don't want to go on to this. I just want to say they suck right now. I'm very upset. They're 8-7. They were 8-2 before. and they suck. And thank you guys for watching. That was a long episode, I know. I'm gonna stop this at 10 minutes and 2 seconds. So thank you guys for everyone, and goodbye.